Hi, fellow classmates. This is Brianna Black, and I'm doing our first learning teaching interaction. So I'll start with our first reading from the intro week, and that was chapter 1, talking about the historical perspective on family life education. So I read this chapter also, um, as all of us I'm sure did, in our marriage and family introduction class. Um, I actually took that pretty recently. I did things a little backwards, but believe it or not, I was not aware of too many other career paths besides counseling. Um, so I was really happy to know that there were alternatives if I wanted to choose a different path. Um, but I really do like the idea of counseling, and that's kind of where I'm going with this major. And I still think that family life education will play a huge role in in counseling settings. I figure if I'm going to help families, there needs to be some knowledge behind that. I need to know how to present that knowledge to them so that they can function without me, and so there's not that much dependency. And I think that's the main goal of counseling, is that they're able to focus um, on their own efforts and not just rely on the counselor. So, also along with the historical perspective, I just couldn't help but think about the earlier days when there weren't there wasn't too much emphasis on the research at first, and they they kind of had to, I guess, form those personal help books and those groups that they had, like the mothering group. And I wonder what kind of setting that was like. Was it more of a facilitator role? That's what I would imagine, because they're all coming together and gathering their experiences. Um, and I think experiences are very real. So, kind of jumping ahead a little bit um, to this week's questions, um, I think I would be more towards the facilitator kind, but more of a collaborator, because I think that experiences and research really build upon each other. So you have someone that's a long time parent, and they come across research that either explains or maybe errors they've made or correct choices, and they're able to understand why that happened. And so I think the research becomes more real to them through their experiences. And so I would really like to bring that to any program that I do. All right, moving to chapter 18, improving the practice of family life education. So, a big part of improving family life education is to have scholarly material. And of course, I think of the repercussions that can happen without doing that if it were just opinions. Opinions can come and go, and they're not proven to be best for the majority. I don't know if you all remember the study that I think we've all read about homosexual parents and their impact on their children. And this was done by the APA. This is from our Family 160 class. And it was saying that homosexual parents' children have no significant difference from those of heterosexual. It was later found out that the research was flawed. They I think they took from the majority of well-off Caucasian white mothers, and the heterosexual parents were actually a lot of them single parents from disadvantaged circumstances, I believe. So that was very unfair, but yet it kind of pushed the movement forward. And we can say that it was wrong and incorrect, but it's kind of too late. The idea is already out there, and the movement's already gone forward. So that's why I think that scholarly research is so important, for it to be accurate and the best that there is out there, so that we really can help families and therefore help society. Um, So chapter 2 was about designing comprehensive family life education programs. Now, I told you that I was already kind of going down the counseling method. So, of course, the third level of prevention kind of fits my long-term goal because they're more qualified to do counseling type of family life education. But at the same time, if I were to actually do workshops, I don't think I would go that route. I think I would just leave that to the counselors and work with the second level, those who have risk factors, because I really like being able to just bring education to the people and seeing them make connections themselves and just going through that learning process. So that's what I would do if I would go down that route. I also think it might be a little bit dangerous too, especially when you're in a group setting, to get into people's lives, and that privacy comes to my mind. But also when I think you have individual counseling or long-term counseling, more analysis is possible, and so more help can be provided to the families. So another part of designing comprehensive family life education programs is to know the audience's needs. And we can do this by observing friends and families and watching the news and doing research. And as members of the church, we know the saying, observe then serve. And this can be applied to family life education, just as it can visiting teaching. We have to know who we're helping before we can know how to best help them. All right. And chapter 16 is marketing. So we need to know how to also address the audience. And I have an example of something that worked when I was a kid. I made ornaments, reindeer and candy cane ornaments out of pipe cleaners. And I sold them to kind of older, well-off family members, and that worked really well. Because I knew my audience. I knew they would buy that and probably find joy out of giving satisfaction to a young child who made those ornaments. But the example I have that didn't work so well was when I was preparing for this class. I went on Facebook and I wanted to find out what topics would be helpful to my community. And I wrote this long passage, kind of boring. And I didn't think about the audience. Facebook, people are going there to relax. They don't want homework. They want to scroll through and see pictures, shorter posts that are kind of funny. So I could have put an attention getter there and maybe just made it more concise, get straight to the point. What can I help you with? So, and then for the principles that we talked about in Appendix A, the one that really stuck with me is the principle of movement. Life is movement. This helped me, and when I thought about my own family, which direction do I want to go? If I want to go closer to my family, I'll put more effort there. If I want to move away from them, I'll focus my efforts elsewhere, like Netflix or comic books, whatever people are into. And this also goes for family life education. If we want to improve our program, we'll work towards it. And that's going to conclude my first learning interaction.